You know that health advice you hear all the time? Drink at least eight-ounce glasses of water a day.
Oh, yeah,
It feels like it's just part of the common knowledge now, doesn't it?
absolutely. The 8 by 8 rule. Yeah, 8 glasses of 8 ounces each. It's really become ingrained in how we think about hydration. You see it everywhere.
Exactly. But, like, have you ever stopped to wonder where that actually comes from?
hmm
Today on the deep dive, that's exactly what we're looking into for you. The big question is there real scientific evidence that everyone needs to drink that much water every single day?
Yeah, that's the goal for this deep dive. We want to trace the origins, where did this advice start?
Hmm.
And then really examine what the science actually says about our daily fluid needs. We've gathered quite a bit of information
Okay.
to try and bring the clearest picture possible.
And this exploration is really for you, our listener. We want to help you understand what's really key about staying hydrated, but like in a way that makes sense for your life without getting bogged down in confusing stuff.
Right, or conflicting advice.
Yeah. So let's dive in. Where did this 8 by 8 idea even begin?
Okay, so that's the crucial first step, right? Finding the roots. We looked back at older health recommendations, talked with nutrition experts, people who really focus on how our bodies handle fluids.
And what did you find? Was there some like big study years ago?
Well, this is what's so interesting. Even though this advice is so widespread, we couldn't find any specific scientific studies that directly prove that drinking 8 ounce glasses of water a day is necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, specifically for, healthy adults, temperate climates, mostly sedentary lives, the standard kind of person.
Seriously. So this advice that so many of us just accept,
Mhm.
it doesn't actually have a solid scientific base. That's surprising.
It is. In fact, instead of finding support for it, we found evidence suggesting that maybe that much plain water isn't needed for everyone in that group.
Hmm.
Like, think about surveys, big ones, looking at what thousands of adults actually eat and drink.
Okay.
These studies, published in proper peer-reviewed
Right.
journals.
Checked by other experts.
Exactly. They showed these people were generally healthy without drinking 8 glasses of plain water every day.
Wow. That really makes you rethink things, doesn't it? If loads of people are healthy without following the rule.
Yeah, maybe it's not as essential as we thought. Which naturally leads to the next question. What else counts towards our daily fluid intake?
Ah, good point.
Yeah.
It's not just about water from the tap or bottle, is it?
Exactly. We tend to focus so much on plain water, but what about all the other liquids?
Yeah, like my morning coffee.
Precisely. Things like coffee, tea, even caffeinated ones, milk, juice.
Yeah.
They all add to our daily fluid levels.
Okay.
And that old idea, you mentioned coffee, the idea it's dehydrating, that's actually been challenged quite a bit by recent research.
Oh, really?
Yeah, studies show that caffeinated drinks, in moderation, seem to hydrate you pretty much just as well as non-caffeinated ones.
That's good news.
It is. Even mild alcoholic drinks like beer in small amounts contribute a bit.
So that morning brew is actually helping. Phew.
It is, and it highlights something important. Our bodies have this pretty amazing system for keeping water balanced. It's called the osmoregulatory system.
Osmoregulatory.
Right.
Okay, like a thermostat for water.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, it constantly monitors and adjusts to keep things stable.
So our bodies are actually quite smart about managing hydration, up to a point.
Exactly. But, and this is really key, how much hydration you need isn't the same as the next person. It's definitely not one size fits all.
That makes total sense. Someone, running a marathon in Florida needs way more than someone working in an air-conditioned office.
Absolutely. There are several personal factors that influence how much fluid you specifically need each day.
Okay, so what are some of the main things? What determines our individual needs?
Well, first off, body size and weight. Generally, bigger people need more fluid. That's pretty straightforward.
Right.
Then activity level. That's a huge one. If you exercise, especially intensely, you sweat more, so you need to replace that lost fluid.
Makes sense.
And of course, climate. Hot, humid, or even very dry conditions mean you lose more water. High altitudes, too.
Altitude, didn't think of that.
Yep. Even your individual metabolism, how your body processes energy, can play a role.
What about food? Did diet factor in?
It absolutely does. A diet high in salty, spicy, or sugary foods might increase your fluid needs.
Okay.
But on the flip side, if you eat lots of fruits and vegetables, you're actually getting a fair bit of water from your food.
Oh, right. Like watermelon or a cucumber.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Watermelon, strawberries, cantaloupe, spinach, kale, cucumbers, celery, they all contribute quite a bit. So we're not just drinking our water, we're eating some of it too.
Eating our water. I like that.
And then there's health status. If you have a fever or, unfortunately, vomiting or diarrhea, you lose extra fluid.
Hmm.
Certain conditions like diabetes can affect hydration too, and some medications like diuretics, water pills, they make you lose more water.
Okay.
And finally, pregnancy and breastfeeding. Both require increased fluid intake to support mom and baby.
Wow, that's quite a list. Really shows how personal hydration is. So, if 8 by 8 isn't the magic number, what should we be aiming for? Any guidelines?
That's the key question, isn't it? While there's no single perfect number, organizations like the National Academy of Medicine do give some general recommendations, sort of a guide.
Okay, what do they suggest?
For adult men, they suggest an adequate daily intake of about 13 cups. That's roughly 104 ounces from all sources, food and drink combined.
13 cups. Okay. And for women?
For adult women, it's about 9 cups, so 72 ounces daily from all sources. And again, these numbers are higher for pregnant or breastfeeding women.
Got it. But these are just general guides, right? Not strict rules.
Exactly. Think of them as ballpark figures. Other bodies, like the European Food Safety Authority, have slightly different suggestions, maybe 2.5 liters for men, 2 liters for women in moderate conditions. The main point is their ranges, and your personal needs will vary.
And you mentioned earlier about 20% of that total intake comes from food. That's actually quite a lot.
It is. So remembering those water-rich foods, the fruits and veggies we talked about, is helpful.
Right.
It's also worth remembering that foods really high in sodium can kind of work against you, potentially leading to dehydration.
Okay, so we can't just rely on a fixed number.
Mhm.
What about thirst? Isn't that our body's built-in signal? Like, hey, drink something.
That's another really common belief that if you feel thirsty, you're already way behind, like significantly dehydrated.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Well, thirst is definitely a signal to drink, absolutely. But it doesn't necessarily mean you have a large water deficit. Your body's just prompting you to top up, and maybe you only need a little bit.
So feeling a bit thirsty isn't like a 5-alarm fire.
Not usually, no, but it's also important to know our thirst signals aren't always perfect.
Oh, how so?
Well, they can become less reliable as we get older, and certain medical conditions can mess with your thirst perception. Some research even suggests that just like seeing water or knowing it's available can influence how thirsty we feel.
That's fascinating. So sometimes we might drink just because it's there, not because we actually need it right that second.
That's definitely possible. And we should also note that for certain groups, think athletes during really intense exercise, people who are ill, infants, their thirst cues might not be adequate guides.
Okay.
Oh, and an interesting finding. Some studies suggest women might actually feel thirsty more strongly than men, even with a smaller level of fluid loss.
Huh. Okay, so if we can't totally rely on the 8 by 8 rule, and we can't always trust our thirst perfectly, how can we tell if we're actually getting enough fluids?
Right, the practical side. There are several good ways to check in with yourself. One of the simplest is urine color.
Okay, the P test.
Exactly. Pale yellow, like a light straw color, usually means you're well hydrated. If it's consistently darker yellow or amber, that could be a sign you need to drink more.
Right. What about how often you go?
That's another good clue. Going about, say, 4 to 6 times a day is generally a decent sign. If it's much less frequent, that might suggest you're not getting enough fluids.
Okay, color and frequency. Got it. Any other signs?
Yeah, you can also just be aware of symptoms of mild dehydration. Things like feeling unusually tired, maybe a bit confused, trouble with short-term memory, moodiness, also headaches, dizziness, a dry mouth, constipation, even muscle cramps can sometimes be linked to not having enough fluids.
Those are definitely things to watch out for. Now, we've talked a lot about not drinking enough, but is it possible to drink too much water?
Yes, absolutely. It is possible, though it's less common for the average healthy person just going about their day.
Okay.
Drinking excessive amounts of water, especially really quickly, can lead to a condition called hyponatremia.
Hyponatremia. What's that?
Basically, it's when the sodium levels in your blood become dangerously low because they get too diluted by all the extra water.
That sounds pretty serious. What are the symptoms?
Symptoms can include things like confusion, nausea, headaches, and in severe cases, it can even lead to seizures.
Wow. Who's most at risk for that?
People with certain kidney issues might be more susceptible, and endurance athletes like marathon runners or triathletes, especially if they drink huge amounts of just plain water during very long events, without also replacing electrolytes like sodium that they lose through sweat.
Okay, so moderation is key, even with water. Good to know. Now let's circle back quickly to other drinks. We know coffee and tea count. Any other pointers there?
Yeah, just to reiterate, things like coffee, tea, milk, even juice contribute. But it's wise to be mindful of added sugars, especially in juices and sodas.
Right.
And while moderate caffeine is usually fine, really high doses might have that diuretic effect, making you pee more for some people.
What about sports drinks? Do we need those?
Generally, for regular exercise, probably not. Plain water is usually enough. Many sports drinks are quite high in sugar.
Okay.
They can be beneficial during very long, intense exercise, think over an hour of hard effort, because they help replace electrolytes lost in sweat. But often, just having water and maybe a salty snack afterwards can do the job too for less extreme situations.
And really quickly, what about alkaline water? Is that worth the hype?
Ah, yes, alkaline water. It's become quite trendy with lots of health claims.
Hmm.
Honestly, the scientific evidence to strongly support significant health advantages over regular plain water just isn't really there yet. If it helps you enjoy drinking water and drink more, great. But plain water likely offers very similar hydration benefits.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up with some practical tips. What are some easy ways people can stay properly hydrated without overthinking it?
Simple habits can make a big difference. Try sipping water regularly throughout the day. Don't wait until you feel parched.
Right. Let's keep it going.
Yeah. Carrying a reusable water bottle is a great visual reminder. Maybe try drinking a glass before each meal. That's an easy habit to build.
Good idea.
Keep an eye on your urine color occasionally. If you know you're going to be exercising or out in the heat, consciously drink a bit more beforehand and during. The American College of Sports Medicine suggests maybe adding 12 ounces for every 30 minutes of exercise as a rough guide. If plain water feels boring, jazz it up. Add slices of lemon, lime, cucumber, berries, or herbs like mint. Sparkling water with a splash of juice is another option.
Nice alternatives.
And it's really important for older adults to be mindful, as those thirst signals might be less reliable. Make a conscious effort.
Right.
And for pregnant or breastfeeding women, remember that higher intake we mentioned, maybe an extra 24 to 32 ounces a day, mostly water.
Got it.
And of course, if you ever feel like you have symptoms of more than just mild dehydration, like severe dizziness, confusion, not urinating for many hours, definitely seek medical attention right away.
That's all really helpful, practical advice. So to kind of sum it up for you, our listener, that old eight-ounce glasses a day rule, it doesn't really have strong scientific backing for everyone, especially healthy adults who aren't super active.
Exactly. Your individual hydration needs really depend on your body, your activity, your environment, your health.
The key seems to be paying attention to your body's signals.
Uh,
Remembering thirst isn't the only one. Check your urine color. Think about how often you're going.
mhm. And adjust based on what you're doing that day, the weather, and how you feel overall.
So instead of rigidly counting glasses, here's something maybe to think about.
Mm.
What are the subtle ways you can become more tuned in to your own body's unique hydration signals?
Yeah.
How can you make conscious choices to stay hydrated in a way that really supports your best health and energy levels? Maybe take some time this week just to observe your own habits and see if any adjustments might make sense based on what we've talked about today.